Great question. And I like where it comes from because it implies that game design isn't the same in live service, which is true. It's not. And that's something I think a lot of studios miss. And it makes sense too, because it's really hard to completely shift your approach, especially when you're doing something for a long period of time. In fact, like, spoiler for my talk, one of the issues for being very talented in the realm of game design and development is that it makes you actually worse at being able to make that transition. And the reason for that ties into this exact question, which is game design for premium, for basically it's like, like non-live games, is very focused on the player experience, which again makes sense. It's kind of a no-brainer, really. The thing is that live services success is actually not based off the player experience, at least not wholly. The player experience is incredibly important. You still have a fun game, but the actual metric you need to be tracking towards and the thing you need to design your game around is not the amazing player experience, but the amazing community experience. You have to design for community engagement, not player engagement. And that makes the whole difference. So yes, the gameplay should be fun. It should be a great game, but that can't be enough to be competitive in a live environment. To be competitive, you need it to be a place that feels like home, a place to return to where where everyone knows your name. This has to be something that makes the player feel like they're part of something greater and they can't wait to be part of that again, even if it's just talking about it on like Discord or a subreddit. And that's the game design shift everyone needs to make. So your product is not a game. When you have a live service game, your product is an interconnected web of engagement and engagement potential built on top of a game. It is the various systems that interconnect within the game to make players feel like they're getting something out of this that has a long-term outlook that like makes them want to come back, either like the next day or the next week or next month, next year. And that also interconnects with your social presence, your community outside the game, again, the Discords and subreddits and all that good stuff. And that engagement potential, that like interconnected web that is built on top of your game is the actual product you're selling. It is not just an identity, not just a gameplay experience, not just a community, but everything wrapped up in that. In practice, a live service ready methodology is insidious and tricky to actually implement wholly for a new studio. Or actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. A new studio, or maybe even worse, a pre-existing studio. Because the issue about that methodology is that it's not just about game design. It's not just about marketing or branding or community support, any of those things, or even things like, your C-suite financials. The methodology is a comprehensive strategic shift to a long-term outlook. It's about understanding that, okay, at the end of the day, we all get the fact that you can't please all the people all the time. The methodological shift at every level of your organization that occurs is one from a premium mindset, which is please all the people some of the time, as in for like a major launch or a new DLC release, to please some of the people all of the time. Because if you don't have some of the people always there, you don't have a community and then you don't have a live game. And that really has tremendous implications down the line for, again, more than game design. Like imagine that you built your game and you're like, all right, we sunk $100 million into this thing. We're going to launch it and it needs to make all that money back or everyone's fired. And in a live environment, that's not always the case, especially with the nature of the marketplace and the competition you're dealing with. It could very well be that it'll take you years before you make that back. And if you haven't budgeted for that and for the staff you need to maintain a live environment that's keeping things going, then you're possibly going to be facing layoffs or studio closures and game ending elements. And like that is very much the reality for most live service games. And that is to the tune of billions of dollars of investment that just get evaporated because you tried to build it around premium methodologies. Everything, again, from game design all the way up to your marketing strategies, your release strategies. I've seen free-to-play games released in the picture-perfect Christmas shopping window, and it's free. Unless you've got shark cards on shelves for grandparents to buy for the kids, that's probably going to like they'll all download it and play it over the holidays, and then they won't go back to your game because they're going to play the games that they got bought for the holidays as gifts. That kind of thing infects every level of the organization, and that's the methodological shift that has to occur. So Besides everything I've already mentioned, it actually comes from two major places. Uh, One of which is that the traditional game design concepts and conceits of essentially like playing lots of very popular games, getting to know your demographic and what appeals to them, maybe like gussing it up a bit or having a different intellectual property or theme, and then making it more polished and ready, and like in putting it out with a little twist, doesn't work. And again, this is like insidious again. Like the challenge here is that you don't always realize what has made a game successful in the long term. Like you look at something like Stardew Valley and you think, I could make that. And then I point to the legions of Stardew Valley clones that went nowhere and that don't have the same community that Stardew Valley generated. And the same is true for most other games that are live service hits. When I was working for Rovio, the bane of my existence was Hearthstone, because back then Rovio was transitioning from premium to free to play, and Hearthstone was the one good free to play game. So they tried to make everything Hearthstone coded and Hearthstone inspired. And that doesn't work for free to play because within free to play and live service, every system is dependent on the other systems that you put into your game. Everything has to be intentional and meticulous because you're dealing with a life cycle for players. And if you have a piece that's not there, it's like having a human with an appendix. And it's like, great, it's maybe it's not hurting them, it's not helping them, and it could burst and kill them. And that's the same is true for systems that you've kind of bolted on from other games. That's the challenging part. And the other part that's really, really tough and what was the word that you used besides challenging? It was
unpredictable.
Unpredictable, yeah. The unpredictable part here is that you aren't in competition with the games in your release window. You are not in competition with the games in your release year. You are in competition with games that have been released over a decade ago. You're in competition with World of Warcraft, which is over 2 decades ago. You're in competition with GTA 5, not 6. 6 is coming, and everyone's like, oh no, get out of the way of GTA 6, neglecting the fact that you are still in competition with a title that came out on the PS3 and still has hundreds of thousands of daily active users on Steam alone. And that is the unpredictable part, is that you cannot predict for the marketplace that is now. You have to predict for the marketplace that is, well, when you're developing a game 5 years from now and also 20 years into the past, and whatever they managed to build in that time period. And that's another insidious part too, is that like you designed for games that were hits in the past, but those games evolved. And now the things that made them hits back then probably wouldn't have worked now. And so you don't have the benefits they do in terms of years of trial and error, years of mistakes that they have learned from, buckets of cash because they're still around, and most critically, a very compelled, happy, and engaged community that doesn't have a strong desire to move to something that's just a tiny bit better. I'm looking forward to the same thing I was looking forward to before, and I'm expecting to find it too, which is cool people. I love the conversations that I got to have. I got to meet really interesting new people and talk about the cutting edge live service stuff, and that is incredibly compelling and also very educational for me. And I really appreciate the event in its totality for that fact.